God chose Greek language because it was the world language at the time, the trade language of the world. And so God always wants to get his word to the most people possible. And so the Greek language was used, and then shortly after that, I don't know, maybe the year 300 or so, the Roman Latin language became kind of the trade language of the world. Today, if diplomats meet to talk, they usually talk in English. That's considered the trade language, or even though the majority of the world does not speak English, that is considered the diplomatic trade language. So it used to be Latin for quite a while. So God preserved his word through different translations. I could give a message to my secretary, she could translate it to Swahili, and somebody else translate it to German, and then translate it to French, and bring it back into English. And still be the same message. It's possible, and God can oversee his word to make sure that happens. I believe, and it took me a long time to get to this point, 25 years as a Christian, I collected other Bible versions, and I've got them all right there on the top shelf. So I have many of the other Bible versions, and I read them and studied them and thought, wow, this one's great, and this one's better than this one. And it took me 25 years to realize I'm making a huge mistake here. God promised he would preserve his words in Psalm 12, 6, and 7. And he did. In the English language, it's in the King James, I believe. I can't find a single flaw in there of anything, letter, word, anything. So I believe that's where it's preserved. Now, that's not the inspired. It was inspired in the Hebrew and Greek. After that, it has to be preserved. Like if I dictate a document to my secretary, for example, that is, we could call that inspiration. The word spire means breathe, expire, inspire, perspire. So I would inspire the text. She would then preserve it from my tape recorder, let's say, into type language, or into electronic for the computer, or Morse code. It could go in anything. So God preserved his word, and over the centuries, it gradually came in 1611, came out as the King James. Before that, there were 6 other English translations. Tyndale's one of them, many of which were very good. But if you try to read the English from the 1400s and 1500s, it's pretty hard to read. You try to read the Beowulf story, which is English, from the 500s. Man, I can't read a word on the page. I've got it here somewhere. But I think God preserved it. And 1600s seems to be the peak of the English language. That's the time of Shakespeare. Today, the average person on the street has a working vocabulary of about 4,000 words. They know the meaning of 4,000 words. Back in the 1600s, the average person on the street had a working vocabulary of like 20,000 words. They didn't have TV and internet. And you talk to teenagers today, they've got about 5 words in their vocabulary. Oh, that's cool, man, that's cool, that's cool. Can you describe it some other way? No, I don't know any other words. So I think God chose the 1600s to do that because the English language was at its peak. It has declined since then quite a bit. And the man walking on the street probably has a 4,000 word vocabulary. After that, he's got to look it up.